The electronic gate slid open with a soft hum, revealing the impeccable garden that stretched to the entrance of the mansion. Gloria clutched the strap of her worn-out handbag against her chest, feeling her heart pound as she walked up the cobblestone driveway. 18 years. 18 years of sleepless nights, of hidden tears, of unanswered questions. And now here she was, just a few feet from the daughter she had never stopped loving. The door was opened by a housekeeper in a crisp uniform, who led her through a foyer with a double-height ceiling and a crystal chandelier worth more than everything Gloria had ever owned in her life. The smell of expensive cleaning products mingled with the scent of fresh flowers arranged in porcelain vases. "You can start in the kitchen." Mrs. Helen left the instructions on the refrigerator, the housekeeper said before disappearing down a side hallway. Gloria walked to the kitchen, a huge space with marble countertops and gleaming stainless steel appliances. Her eyes scanned every detail, imagining how many meals had been prepared there for the daughter she hadn't seen grow up. How many breakfast mornings, how many Sunday lunches, how many birthday parties. The sound of footsteps descending the staircase made her turn, and then she saw her. Isabella was freshly 18, with long, perfectly straightened hair falling over her shoulders, wearing a designer outfit that cost more than Gloria's rent. She was beautiful, undeniably beautiful, but there was something hard in her dark eyes as they landed on the daily help. "You're the new one?" she asked, without so much as a hello or good morning. "Yes, miss. My name is Gloria." Isabella walked past her without replying, opening the refrigerator and grabbing a bottle of imported mineral water. She poured herself a glass, drank half and left the dirty glass on the counter, just inches from the sink. "You can wash this," she said, gesturing to the glass with a dismissive wave of her hand. "And when you're done, I need you to organize my walk-in closet. It's an absolute mess." Gloria swallowed hard. "Of course, Miss Isabella." "Just Isabella. No need for all the formality. You're not family." The words cut deep, but Gloria kept her expression neutral. She forced a smile and picked up the glass, washing it carefully while Isabella scrolled through her phone, leaning against the counter as if the cleaner's presence were just part of the decor. "Oh, and another thing," Isabella continued without looking up from the screen. "Don't touch my personal things. Just organize the clothes that are scattered around, and be quick. I have friends coming over soon, and I don't want you hanging around the house when they get here." "Understood." Isabella left the kitchen with the same indifference with which she had entered, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and contempt. Gloria stood still for a moment, her fingers still gripping the dish sponge, feeling her legs tremble. It was her. It was really her. The baby she had held for only a few hours before signing the papers, the child she had wrapped in an embroidered blanket while singing a lullaby with a choked voice. She took a deep breath, dried her hands on her apron, and headed upstairs. Isabella's bedroom was larger than Gloria's entire apartment. A king-size bed dominated the center, covered in satin sheets. There was a vanity overflowing with international cosmetic brands, a huge wardrobe with mirrored doors, and next to it, a half-open door revealing a walk-in closet the size of a regular room. Gloria entered slowly, as if stepping on sacred ground. Clothes were strewn across the floor on the bed, hung haphazardly on chairs. Labels from famous designers jumped out at her. She began to work methodically, folding each piece, sorting by type and color, placing them on the appropriate hangers. Every dress, every blouse, every pair of shoes was a window into the life her daughter had led away from her. Parties, trips, shopping malls, fine restaurants. "Are you still here?" Gloria turned, startled. Isabella was at the closet door, arms crossed, an expression of irritation on her face. "I told you to be quick. My friends are arriving." "I'm almost finished, Miss Isabella." Isabella rolled her eyes and left. Gloria heard female voices coming from the living room, loud and carefree laughter. She hurried to finish the job, hanging the last few items and closing the closet doors. When she went downstairs, 3 girls Isabella's age were sprawled on the living room sofas, all equally well-dressed and confident. Gloria tried to pass by unnoticed towards the kitchen, but Isabella's voice stopped her. "Hold on, can you bring us some juice, that fresh squeezed orange juice in the fridge, and put it in nice glasses, not..." Those everyday ones. Isabella's friends barely looked at Gloria as she served the drinks. One of them complained that the juice was too warm, another that she wanted more ice. Isabella just watched with a smirk, as if testing how far she could push. After bringing the chilled juice, Gloria returned to the kitchen and began preparing the snacks the housekeeper had instructed. As she worked, fragments of conversation reached her. Isabella and her friends were talking about a party over the weekend, about a guy one of them was seeing, about a trip to Europe planned for the holidays. At one point, one of the friends asked, "Where's your mum, Izzy?" "She's traveling with my dad. They're not back until next week. The house is all mine." Knowing laughter echoed through the room. Gloria wiped her hands on her apron, feeling a tightness in her chest. Helen. That was the adoptive mother's name, the woman who had had the privilege of raising her daughter, of being present for every milestone, every hardship, every joy. She didn't feel anger towards Helen, she never had. She felt gratitude for giving Isabella everything she couldn't, but the envy was a wound that had never fully healed. "You!" Isabella's voice cut through her thoughts. Gloria returned to the living room. One of the glasses had been knocked over, orange juice spreading across the light-colored Persian rug. "Clean that up," Isabella ordered, pointing at the stain. "And be careful. This rug is from Persia and it's worth a fortune." Gloria grabbed the cleaning supplies and knelt on the floor, working to remove the stain, while the four girls continued chatting as if she were invisible. Her knees ached against the hard floor, and her hands, already weathered by years of hard work, stung from the chemicals. But she continued meticulously until the rug was once again spotless. When she finally stood up, Isabella didn't even say thank you. She just waved her hand, dismissing her. The rest of the day passed in a blur of chores. Gloria cleaned bathrooms, dusted furniture, organized the pantry, washed the glasses the girls had used. As the sun began to set, painting the sky orange through the mansion's huge windows, she sat for a moment in the kitchen, allowing herself a few minutes of rest. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. She knew it would be hard. She had planned this for months, getting the job through an agency, using a slightly different name to avoid suspicion. But nothing had prepared her for the pain of being treated like nothing by her own daughter, of being invisible to the one she had carried in her womb, of being despised by the one she had breastfed in the brief moments they had together. "Is the house presentable?" Isabella asked, suddenly appearing in the kitchen. Her friends had left and she was alone now, still wearing that expression of superiority. "Yes, everything is clean and organized." "Good. You can leave then. But tomorrow I need you here earlier, 7 in the morning. I'm making breakfast for some friends and I need everything to be perfect." Gloria nodded, picking up her bag. 7 in the morning meant waking up at 5 to catch 2 buses to get there on time. It meant fewer hours of sleep, more exhaustion, but it also meant another day near her daughter. As she walked back to the gate, Gloria looked back one last time. Isabella was at her bedroom window, scrolling on her phone, completely oblivious to the sacrifice that woman in a simple uniform was making just to be near her. She didn't know that every insult was a knife in the heart of the person who loved her more than life itself. She didn't know that the daily help she despised carried on her chest the same birthmark she had on her shoulder, a perfect crescent moon that connected them in ways she could never imagine. The gate closed behind Gloria with a final click. She adjusted her bag on her shoulder and began the long walk to the bus stop, her heart heavy but determined. She would be back tomorrow, and the day after, and for as many days as it took, because despite everything, despite the pain and the contempt, being near Isabella was the only thing that mattered. It was the price she would pay for a second chance she didn't even know if she deserved. The following weeks became a routine of small cruelties. Gloria arrived punctually every day, always in the same simple, clean uniform, always with the same forced smile on her lips. And every day, Isabella found new ways to exert her power over her. The first week it was the staircase incident. Gloria had just finished cleaning the marble steps when Isabella came running down, talking on the phone, and deliberately knocked over a glass of grape juice. The purple liquid ran down 5 steps, staining the light marble. "Oops, how clumsy of me," Isabella said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You'll have to clean it all over again. And be quick, I have guests coming soon, and I can't have the staircase looking like this." Gloria knelt again, scrubbing each step with special products, her back protesting with every movement. It took 2 hours to completely remove the stains. When she finished, Isabella came down again and inspected the work, running her index finger over the marble as if searching for flaws. "Could be better," was all she said before going back up. The second week, Isabella started inventing unnecessary tasks. She would ask Gloria to reorganize the walk-in closet in a specific way, and the next day she would have her reorganize it in a completely different way. She made a point of using multiple plates and utensils throughout the day, leaving everything scattered around the kitchen for Gloria to wash. Whenever the cleaner finished a task, Isabella always found something to criticize. "This picture is crooked. Can't you do anything right? This window has a smudge. Did you clean it with your eyes closed? The bathroom doesn't smell fresh. Clean it again." Gloria endured it all in silence. Sometimes when she was alone in the laundry room or the pantry, she allowed herself a few seconds of silent crying. But never in front of Isabella. She would never give her daughter the satisfaction of seeing that her words hurt. On a rainy Tuesday, Isabella came home drenched, her mood visibly worse. Gloria was cleaning the living room when she stormed in like a hurricane, leaving a trail of water on the freshly washed floor. "My car broke down and I had to take a cab," Isabella complained, throwing her wet handbag onto the sofa. "This day is horrible." Gloria watched the water drip from the bag onto the velvet sofa. "I'm sorry, miss, can I make you a hot tea?" Isabella looked at her as if she had said something absurd. "Tea? You think tea solves anything? You know what solves things. You're doing your job properly. Look at this floor, it's covered in water now. It was an accident when you came in." "I don't care," Isabella cut her off. "Clean it, and take this bag and dry it. Carefully, it's Prada, and it costs more than you make in 6 months." Gloria picked up the bag gently, feeling the weight of the wet leather, and took it to the laundry room. She spent the next 40 minutes drying every part with soft cloths, fearing that any damage would cost her dearly. When she returned the bag to Isabella, perfectly dry and cared for, she received no thanks. Just an assessing look and a dismissive wave. The situation worsened considerably in the third week. Isabella announced she was throwing a party on Saturday to celebrate her acceptance into a fashion course in Europe. Her parents were still traveling, and she was taking advantage of their absence to gather her friends. "You'll stay to help," Isabella informed her, not asked. "The party starts at 8 p.m., but I want you here at 4 to help set everything up, and you'll only leave when everything is clean afterwards." Gloria felt her heart sink. Saturday was her only day off, the day she used to take care of her own things, of the small apartment where she lived. But she couldn't refuse, not when it meant spending more time near her daughter. "Of course, Isabella, I'll be here." Saturday arrived with a suffocating heat typical of a Los Angeles summer. Gloria arrived at 4 on the dot and found the house in chaos. Isabella had hired a decorating team that had transformed the living room and pool area into a magazine-worthy scene. But the kitchen was a disaster of beverage boxes, food trays being prepared by a catering company, and Isabella in the middle of it all barking orders. "You, Gloria, I need you to wash all these glasses. There are 100 people confirmed and I don't want anyone drinking from plastic cups. And then help the catering staff with whatever they need." Gloria spent the next 4 hours washing crystal glasses, one by one, drying each one meticulously so they would be spotless. Her hands were red and swollen from the hot water when she finished. Then she helped arrange the food trays, organize the drink station, and make sure the trash cans were strategically placed. When the first guests arrived at 8, Gloria was instructed to stay in the kitchen out of sight, but available if anyone needed anything. She sat there on a stool in the corner listening to the loud music, the laughter, the excited shouts of young people who had no worries in the world beyond enjoying the night. Around 10 o'clock, Isabella appeared in the kitchen with 3 friends. "Gloria, we need more ice, and you need to restock the drinks at the pool area." As Gloria carried the heavy ice, she heard one of the friends whisper, "You have a maid working at your party, isn't that kind of weird?" "Why would it be weird?" Isabella replied matter-of-factly. "That's what she's here for, to work." The laughter that followed made Gloria grip the ice bags tighter, her nails digging into the plastic. The party continued into the early hours. Gloria stayed awake, circulating discreetly, collecting empty glasses, cleaning up spills, emptying trash cans. Around 3 in the morning, the last guests finally left. Isabella, clearly tired but still buzzing from the night's adrenaline, looked at the state of the house and then at Gloria. "I need you to clean all of this up tonight," she said bluntly. "My parents get home tomorrow at noon and they can't see the house like this." Gloria looked around. The living room was covered in glasses, plates, used napkins. The pool area had forgotten wet clothes, scattered towels, more broken glasses. The kitchen was a mountain of dirty dishes. "Isabella, it's 3 in the morning. I can come back very early tomorrow." "No," Isabella cut her off, her voice hard. "It has to be tonight, now. I'm not risking my parents seeing this mess. You start now, and you finish when you're finished." And without waiting for a reply, Isabella went up to her room, closing the door behind her and leaving Gloria alone with the party's devastation. Gloria took a deep breath, feeling tears threaten to fall. But they didn't. Instead, she tied up her hair, put on her apron, and started to work. She began in the kitchen, washing piles and piles of dishes, her hands submerged in soapy water until they were wrinkled and sore. Then she moved to the living room, collecting all the trash, vacuuming the rugs, cleaning stains off the sofas. The pool area was last, and by the time she was done, the sky was already beginning to lighten with the first rays of sun. It was 5:30 in the morning when Gloria finally finished. The house was impeccable again, as if the party had never happened. She allowed herself to sit for a moment on the kitchen stool, her eyes burning with exhaustion, her whole body aching. She had to get back home, shower, and return for her normal work shift in just a few hours. When she went upstairs to let Isabella know she was done, she found the bedroom door ajar. She peeked inside and saw Isabella sleeping soundly in the king-size bed, her face relaxed and young, free of the disdainful expressions she wore when she was awake. Gloria stood there for a moment, just watching. That was her daughter, that face that looked so much like her own at the same age, those hands that had the same long fingers, that heart she had carried and protected for 9 months. How had they reached this point? How had the baby she had cradled with so much love become this cruel person? Was it her fault for giving up? Or was it the adoptive parents' fault for spoiling her too much? Or was it simply the randomness of life, shaping personalities in unpredictable ways? Gloria closed the door silently and went downstairs. She grabbed her bag and left the mansion, the morning sun already high in the sky. On the bus ride home, she finally allowed the tears to flow. Tears of exhaustion, of pain, of frustration, but also tears of determination. Because despite everything, despite every insult and every humiliation, she would not give up. She couldn't. She had 18 years of absence to make up for, even if Isabella never knew, even if the price was her own dignity. The Monday after the party brought a change in the house's dynamic. Helen and Robert, Isabella's adoptive parents, had returned from their trip. Gloria met them for the first time that morning when she arrived for work. Helen was an elegant woman in her 50s, with perfectly cut blonde hair and understated but clearly expensive clothes. She had an air of natural authority, but wasn't hostile. She greeted Gloria with a polite nod and offered her coffee, which Gloria respectfully declined. Robert was a tall, grey-haired man, constantly busy with his phone and work papers. He barely noticed Gloria's presence, immersed in his own business concerns. For a few days, the parents' presence seemed to moderate Isabella's behavior. Orders were given in a less harsh tone, the looks of contempt were more discreet. But Gloria could tell it was just a facade. When Helen and Robert weren't around, Isabella reverted to being the same cruel young woman. On Thursday of that week, Gloria was ironing in the laundry room when she heard Isabella shout from upstairs. Her heart raced. She ran up the stairs, fearing an emergency. She found Isabella in the walk-in closet holding a white blouse, her face contorted in fury. "What did you do?" Isabella screamed, shaking the blouse in the air. Gloria approached, trying to understand. I washed your clothes like I always do." You ruined my blouse. Look at this." Isabella pointed to a small yellowish stain on the blouse's sleeve. Gloria remembered that piece. It was made of a delicate fabric that she had hand-washed with the utmost care. "Isabella, I was very careful. That stain was already there when—" "No, it wasn't," Isabella interrupted. "This blouse was perfect. You must have used bleach or some wrong product. Do you know how much this blouse cost? $1,000. It's imported from an exclusive boutique in Paris." Gloria felt panic rising. $1,000. Almost her entire monthly salary of $1,200. "I swear I was extremely careful. I washed it by hand, with neutral soap, exactly as—" "I don't want to hear your excuses," Isabella cut her off. "You were negligent, and now you're going to pay for it, literally." Isabella marched downstairs with the blouse in hand, Gloria behind her, her heart in her throat. They found Helen in the living room reading a design magazine. "Mom, I need to talk to you," Isabella said, her voice taking on a victim-like tone Gloria hadn't heard before. "Gloria ruined my new blouse, the one you gave me as a gift." Helen looked at the blouse, then at Gloria. "What a shame. That blouse was really beautiful." "It was," Isabella emphasized. "Now it's destroyed, and it costs $1,000. I think it's only fair that it's deducted from her salary, don't you?" Helen hesitated for a moment, and in that brief second, Gloria hoped the woman would be reasonable. But then Helen nodded. "If you're sure it was her fault, Isabella, then yes, Gloria, the amount will be deducted from your next paycheck." "But Mrs. Helen," Gloria began, her voice trembling, "I really wasn't negligent. That stain—" "Gloria, I'm sorry, but I have to trust my daughter's word," Helen said, her tone no longer warm but not exactly cruel. "These things happen. You need to be more careful with delicate clothes." The deduction was confirmed. $1,000 from a $1,200 salary. That left $200 for the entire month. $200 that would barely pay the light and water bills for her small apartment, let alone food, transportation, and all other basic needs. Gloria left the room on shaky legs, went back upstairs to continue her work, but when she reached the empty guest room, she closed the door and finally broke down. She sat on the floor, her back against the wall, and cried silently. How would she pay rent? How would she buy food? She had a small emergency fund, but using that money meant being left with no safety net, completely vulnerable. After a few minutes, she wiped her face and stood up. She couldn't lose this job, not now, not when she was finally close to Isabella. She returned to work with a heavy heart, each task now carrying the additional weight of injustice. In the following days, Isabella seemed to have gained new confidence in her power over Gloria. The humiliations became more frequent and more public. One afternoon, with friends visiting, she called Gloria into the living room. "Gloria, show my friends your hands," Isabella ordered with a strange smile on her lips. Gloria hesitated, confused. "Miss, your hands. Show them." Reluctantly, Gloria held out her hands. They were calloused, with short, unpolished nails, marked by years of hard work and harsh cleaning. "Products." "Look," Isabella said to her friends, "these are the hands of someone who really works, not like ours, right?" The girls laughed, an uncomfortable sound that echoed through the room. One of them, at least, had the decency to look ashamed. Gloria lowered her hands, her face burning with humiliation. "You can go, Gloria." Isabella dismissed her, turning her attention back to her friends, as if the cleaner had already ceased to exist. That night, while cleaning the kitchen after dinner, Gloria overheard Helen and Robert talking in the adjacent living room. The door was ajar, and their voices carried. "I'm worried about Isabella," Helen was saying. "She's so different lately, more hard." "It's hormones, dear," Robert replied distractedly. "She's 18. It's a phase." "I don't know. Sometimes she treats people with such coldness. I saw how she spoke to the Daily Help today. It was unnecessarily cruel. You spoiled her too much when she was a child. Now you're reaping what you sow." "We spoiled her, Robert, both of us, and maybe it's time we had that talk with her, about the adoption." There was a pause. Gloria stopped cleaning, barely daring to breathe. "I still think it's too soon," Robert said finally. "She's 18. She's not a child anymore. She deserves to know the truth about her origins. about the sacrifice her biological mother made. "Let's wait a little longer, when she's more mature." The voices moved away, and Gloria started breathing again. So they really did plan to tell her. Isabella didn't know she was adopted. She had no idea that the daily help she treated with such contempt was the woman who had given her life, who had given up everything so she could have a better future. Gloria leaned against the sink, feeling her legs weaken. The irony was too cruel. All these years she had imagined her daughter asking about her, wanting to meet her, maybe even loving her from afar. She had never imagined that Isabella didn't even know she existed, that she lived a life of complete ignorance about her true roots. On Friday, payday arrived. Helen handed Gloria an envelope that felt painfully thin. Inside were $200 in crumpled bills and a receipt showing the $1,000 deduction for the supposedly damaged blouse. Gloria put the envelope in her pocket without looking at it, murmured a thank you, and went back to work. That night, sitting in her small apartment, she counted and recounted the money, doing mental calculations. She could pay the electricity bill, or buy food, but not both. She could pay part of the rent, but she would owe the rest. Her emergency fund would have to cover the difference, leaving her with almost nothing. For the first time since she started working at the mansion, Gloria questioned if she could continue. The physical pain of the hard work was bearable. The emotional pain of the constant humiliations was difficult, but manageable. But the financial pain, the desperation of not knowing how she would survive the next month, threatened to break her resolve. But then she looked at the only photo she had of baby Isabella, hidden in a drawer under her clothes. It was a faded Polaroid, taken at the hospital just minutes after she was born. Isabella was wrapped in the embroidered blanket, her little eyes closed, her face red and wrinkled like a newborn's. And in the corner of the photo, almost out of frame, was the small birthmark on the baby's shoulder. A perfect crescent moon, identical to the one Gloria had on her own shoulder. She traced the outline of the photo with her finger, remembering that moment. The weight of the baby in her arms, the sweet smell of new skin, the soft sound of her breathing. She remembered singing a lullaby, even though she knew it would be their last hours together. She remembered kissing that birthmark, whispering promises of eternal love that a baby couldn't understand. No, Gloria decided, putting the photo back. She would not give up. She would find a way to survive the month. She would take on odd jobs on the weekends, skip meals, save on everything she could. But she would not give up the only chance she had to be near her daughter, even if that daughter didn't know who she really was, even if that daughter treated her as something less than human. Because a mother's love, a true mother's love, doesn't give up, no matter the price. Saturday arrived sunny and hot, one of those Los Angeles summer days that made the asphalt shimmer and the air tremble. Gloria arrived at the mansion at 8 in the morning, as agreed. Helen and Robert had left early for a tennis tournament at their club and wouldn't be back until late afternoon. Isabella was still asleep when Gloria entered. The house was quiet, just the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant song of birds in the garden. Gloria started her work in the kitchen, preparing the breakfast Isabella would eventually come down for, and then moved on to her cleaning tasks. Around 10 o'clock, she heard footsteps upstairs. Isabella was awake. Gloria continued working, waiting for the inevitable list of demands, but Isabella simply grabbed a cup of coffee, some fruit, and went back to her room without a word. Minutes later, Gloria heard her leave in her car, probably to meet friends. It was rare to have the house to herself. Gloria finished cleaning the living room and the downstairs bathrooms, and then went upstairs. She had instructions to change the bedding in Isabella's room and organize the walk-in closet, a task that had become weekly due to the young woman's tendency to leave everything in a mess. She entered the room carefully, even knowing she was alone. She changed the satin sheets for equally luxurious ones, then moved on to the closet. As she organized the clothes, her eye was drawn to the desk next to the window. There were piles of papers, fashion books, magazines, and a half-open drawer. Gloria approached, her curiosity overcoming her caution. She wasn't in the habit of going through Isabella's personal things beyond what was necessary for cleaning, But that slightly open drawer revealed the edge of a brown leather folder. Something inside pulled her closer. She looked over her shoulder, checking that she was truly alone. The house remained silent. With trembling fingers, she opened the drawer further and pulled out the folder. It was heavy, made of genuine leather, say with a gold clasp. Gloria placed it on the desk and opened it. Inside was a collection of documents protected by clear plastic sleeves. Her heart began to beat faster when she saw the first document. It was a birth certificate, but not the official one Isabella used day to day. It was the original, the real one. And there it was, in black, official letters. Mother's name, Maria Gloria Santos. Father's name, unknown. Date of birth, March 15th, 2007. St. Clair's Maternity Hospital, Los Angeles. The tears came instantly, blurring her vision. Gloria wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and continued flipping through the documents. There was the adoption agreement, signed by her in a shaky script she barely recognized as her own. There were the legal documents transferring custody to Helen and Robert Montgomery. And then, the photos. The first was of Gloria in the hospital, only 25 years old, looking exhausted and scared, holding a baby wrapped in a white blanket with blue embroidery. Her young eyes were red from crying, but there was a soft smile on her lips as she looked at her daughter. The second photo showed the baby up close, and there, it was visible and unmistakable, the birthmark on her shoulder. A perfect crescent moon, dark against the newborn's fair skin. The same mark Gloria had on her own shoulder, hidden beneath her work uniform. There were more photos. Gloria holding the baby against her chest. Gloria kissing the tiny forehead. The last photo was of a nurse taking the baby away, and Gloria in the background, her face hidden in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. But what completely broke Gloria was the letter. It was inside a time-yellowed envelope, folded carefully. Gloria recognized it immediately. It was her, handwriting, her insecure script from 18 years ago. With violently shaking hands, she unfolded the paper and began to read the words she had written on one of the darkest nights of her life. "My dearest daughter," the letter began. "I am writing this with my heart broken into 1,000 pieces, knowing you may never read these words, but needing to say them anyway. I love you. I love you more than I have ever loved anything in this life, more than myself, more than my own breath. And that is why I am making this impossible choice. I have nothing to give you. No money, no home, no education or opportunities. I live in a tiny room that barely fits a bed. I work 3 jobs and still can hardly afford 1 meal a day. If I kept you with me, you would grow up in the deepest poverty. You would go hungry. You wouldn't have proper clothes, a decent school, a doctor when you got sick. And I would never forgive you for that. I would never forgive myself for condemning you to a life of suffering when there is a chance, a single chance, for you to have something better. The doctors told me there is a couple waiting. Good people with resources, with love to give. They will give you everything I cannot. Education, security, opportunities. A life, a real life, not this desperate survival that is all I know. But I want you to know, wherever you are, whoever you become, that this decision is killing me inside. That every second I spend holding you is both the greatest happiness and the greatest agony. That I will spend the rest of my life wondering if you are okay, if you are happy, if you miss me even without knowing I exist. You have a mark on your right shoulder, in the shape of a crescent moon. I have the same mark. It is our connection, our blood tie that no one can erase. Wherever you go, you carry a piece of me, and I will carry you in every beat of my heart until my last breath. If one day you look for me, if one day you want to meet me, I will be here, waiting, always waiting. And if you never look for me, if you live a happy life without ever knowing I exist, that is okay too, because all I want, all I have ever wanted, is for you to be happy. I love you forever, my little one. Never forget that you were wanted, loved, and that this separation is the greatest sacrifice I have ever made for love. Your mother, who will always love you, Gloria. Gloria didn't realize she was crying until a tear fell onto the paper, smudging the old ink. She quickly wiped the letter, put everything back in the folder exactly as she had found it, and closed the drawer. She sat on Isabella's bed for a long moment, trying to compose herself. Now she understood. Isabella didn't know. She had no idea she was adopted, let alone who her biological mother was. She lived a life of complete ignorance, treating her own mother like trash without knowing the truth. And Helen and Robert had kept everything. They hadn't destroyed the records, hadn't hidden the story. They had kept it carefully, waiting for the right moment to reveal it. They were good people, after all. People who respected the truth, even if it hurt. The sound of the front door opening pulled her from her thoughts. Isabella was back. Gloria quickly stood up, wiped her face, and returned to work, pretending to be tidying the closet when Isabella came up the stairs. "You're not done in here yet?" Isabella asked, entering the room with shopping bags. "I'm almost finished," Gloria replied, her voice surprisingly steady. Isabella threw the bags on the bed and went to the bathroom. Gloria finished quickly and went downstairs, her heart still racing from the discovery. She spent the rest of the afternoon on autopilot, cleaning and organizing, her mind spinning around those documents, those photos, that letter. Late, in the afternoon, as she was preparing a snack in the kitchen, Isabella appeared and sat on the counter, scrolling through her phone. There was a strangeness in the air, a not entirely hostile silence. "Do you have kids?" Isabella asked suddenly, without taking her eyes off the phone. The question caught Gloria completely off guard. Her heart skipped a beat. I had a daughter." "Had? What happened to her?" Gloria took a deep breath. "I gave her up for adoption when I was very young." Isabella finally looked up, an expression of curiosity mixed with disdain on her face. "Really? Why?" "Because I couldn't afford to raise her. I was too young, too poor. I wanted her to have a better life than I could give." Isabella snorted, a sound of disbelief. "A real mother doesn't abandon her child, no matter how hard it is. A real mother stays and fights." The words were like daggers. Gloria gripped the edge of the sink tightly, her nails pressing into the stainless steel. "You don't know what it's like, Isabella. You don't know what it's like to have nothing, to be nothing, and to look at a baby knowing you're only going to drag her down with you." Isabella shrugged. "I don't know. I just think it's an excuse. If you really loved her, you would have found a way." She hopped off the counter and left the kitchen, leaving Gloria alone with the poisoned words echoing in her mind. A real mother doesn't abandon her child. Her own daughter, unknowingly, had just judged the most painful decision of her life. She had just called her greatest sacrifice abandonment. Gloria finished her workday mechanically, barely able to concentrate. When she finally left the mansion and the gate closed behind her, she allowed herself to cry freely the entire walk to the bus stop. Isabella's words mixed with the words from the letter, creating a storm of guilt and pain that threatened to drown her. The next 2 weeks were the hardest since Gloria had started working at the mansion. After the conversation about adoption, something had changed. Isabella seemed to have found a new angle of cruelty, making constant comments about motherly responsibility and what it means to be a good mom. "My mother always says that a real mother would sacrifice anything for her children," Isabella would comment while Gloria cleaned around her. "She would never abandon me no matter what." Or, "I can't imagine giving a child to strangers. It must be the most selfish thing in the world." Every word was a refined torture, and the worst part was that Isabella had no idea what she was doing. She didn't know that each comment was a knife straight to the heart of the woman who cleaned her rooms, washed her clothes, and endured her humiliations. Gloria continued her work in silence, counting the days until her next paycheck, saving every penny, surviving on rice and beans in her small apartment. But with each passing day, it became harder to maintain the facade, harder not to scream the truth. Helen and Robert continued their busy lives, barely noticing the dynamic between the daily help and their daughter. When they were present, Isabella behaved better, but in the moments they were alone, she seemed to be testing just how far she could go. It was on a Tuesday, 2 weeks after the discovery of the documents, that everything reached a breaking point. Gloria was in the laundry room folding clothes when she heard Isabella's voice from the hallway. She was on the phone, and something in her tone made Gloria stop working and pay attention. "No, seriously, Marina, it's hilarious," Isabella was saying between laughs. "The new cleaner is so pathetic. Yesterday she practically begged me not to deduct anything else from her salary, As if I care, my mom pays her salary, not me. Silence as the person on the other end spoke. I know, right? But it's so fun to see how she humiliates herself. She does literally anything I tell her to. The other day I made her clean the same bathroom 3 times in a row just because, and she did it without questioning. It's like having a robot you can mistreat and it doesn't react. More silence. Gloria was frozen, her hands clutching a folded towel, her eyes fixed on the wall. No, she has no dignity at all. She's the kind of person who was born to serve, you know. She even had the nerve to tell me she gave a daughter up for adoption. Can you imagine being so incompetent you can't even take care of your own kid? The laugh that followed was the last straw. Something inside Gloria broke. All the weeks of humiliation, all the nights spent crying, all the accumulated pain of 18 years of separation and regret surged to the surface like an uncontrollable wave. Her hands dropped the towel. Her body turned and began to walk towards the hallway. Isabella was leaning against the wall near the stairs, still laughing on the phone, completely oblivious to what was about to happen. Gloria stopped a few feet from her, and her voice, when it came out, was firm and clear in a way it hadn't been for weeks. Enough! Isabella turned, surprised. Marina, I'll call you back, she said, quickly into the phone before hanging up. What? I said enough, Gloria repeated, taking a step forward. I can't take it anymore. I'm not going to stand here and listen to you humiliate me, ridicule me, laugh at my pain. What are you talking about? Isabella asked, her voice taking on that irritated, superior tone. Were you working or eavesdropping on private conversations? I was listening to you call me pathetic, humiliated, a person with no dignity who was born to serve. Isabella's face flushed slightly, but she quickly recomposed her expression. And? It's the truth. You're the maid. I'm the employer. That's how it works. No, Isabella, that's not how it works. And do you know why? Because I'm not just the maid. Isabella crossed her arms. Oh, now you're going to give me a lecture. A woman who abandoned her own daughter? I did not abandon my daughter, Gloria said, her voice trembling but firm. I loved her so much that I gave her the only chance she had at a better life. And you know what, Isabella? I am your mother. The silence that followed was absolute. Isabella stood completely still, her eyes wide, her mouth slightly open. For a long moment, neither of them moved. What? Isabella finally whispered. You heard me. I am your biological mother, the woman you've been calling pathetic, undignified, incompetent. I carried you in my womb for 9 months. I gave birth to you on March 15th, 2007, at 6:20 in the morning, at St. Clair's Maternity Hospital. You weighed 7 pounds and 8 ounces. I wrapped you in a white blanket with blue embroidery that I sewed myself, and then I gave you to Helen and Robert because it was the only way to ensure you had a life I could never give. You're crazy, Isabella said, but her voice was weak, uncertain. You're making this up to what? Get money? Blackmail me? I don't want your money, Isabella. I never did. I just wanted to be near you, to see how you'd grown, to know the person you'd become. And you know how I can prove I'm telling the truth. How? Isabella challenged, but there was fear in her eyes now. You have a birthmark on your right shoulder. In the shape of a crescent moon, I have the same mark, and there's more. Your adoptive parents have kept all the adoption documents in a brown leather folder in your desk drawer. There are pictures of me holding you in the hospital. There's the original birth certificate with my name on it. And there's a letter I wrote to you the day I gave you up explaining why I did what I did. Isabella's face was completely white now. She shook her head, taking steps backward. No, that can't be true. My parents would have told me. They were planning to tell you. I heard them talking. They were waiting for the right moment. But they never imagined that the daily help they hired was me. You're lying, Isabella insisted, but tears were starting to form in her eyes. You're making all of this up. Then go check, Gloria said calmly. Go to your room, open the drawer, read the letter, look at the pictures, and then tell me if I'm lying. Isabella stood still for another moment, her chest rising and falling rapidly, panic visible in every line of her face. Then she turned and ran up the stairs, her footsteps echoing through the silent house. Gloria stayed, where she was, trembling now that the adrenaline was starting to fade. She had done it. She had told the truth. There was no going back. She sat down on the bottom step of the staircase, her legs no longer supporting her weight, and waited. Upstairs, she could hear Isabella running around the room, drawers being pulled open violently, the sound of papers being shuffled. And then, silence. A deep, heavy silence. Gloria imagined Isabella reading the letter, seeing the photos, connecting all the dots. 18 years of lies crumbling in a matter of minutes. 18 years of identity being called into question. After what felt like an eternity, Gloria heard a sound. It was a sob, then another, and then full-blown crying, loud and desperate, the kind of crying that comes from the depths of the soul. A few minutes later, she heard Isabella's muffled voice on the phone. "Mom? Mom, you need to come home now, right now. I found something out. About me. Please, just come back." More crying, more silence. And then, footsteps coming down the stairs. Isabella appeared with her face completely wet with tears, clutching the leather folder with both hands as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Her eyes, so full of arrogance and contempt in recent weeks, were now broken, vulnerable, lost. She stopped in front of Gloria, who was still sitting on the step, and for a long moment they just looked at each other. The mother who had sacrificed everything and the daughter who never knew. "It's true," Isabella whispered, her voice broken. "It's all here. The pictures, the certificate, the letter, everything. You really are." "I'm your mother," Gloria completed softly, "and I know you're confused and scared right now. But you need to know that everything I did, every decision I made was out of love for you. I treated you, oh my God, I treated you so badly." The tears were falling freely now, and Isabella seemed to be struggling to breathe. "I said horrible things. I put you through horrible things. And all along you are... She could no longer complete her sentences. Her legs gave way, and she fell to her knees on the floor, the folder dropping beside her, sobbing with an intensity that made her whole body shake. The weeks of cruelty, every insult, every humiliation, every moment of contempt, it all came flooding back now, its weight multiplied by the revealed truth. Gloria moved off the step and knelt beside Isabella, but she didn't touch her. She didn't know if she had the right. She just stayed there, close, waiting. "How did you stand it?" Isabella asked between sobs. "How did you stay here, letting me treat you like that, knowing who you were? Because every moment near you, no matter how painful, was better than 18 years away. Because I would go through anything, endure any humiliation, just for the chance to see your face every day, to know you were okay, to be a part of your life, even if you didn't know it." Isabella lifted her tear-streaked face and looked at Gloria with an expression of such deep pain, it broke the mother's heart. "Forgive me," she whispered. "Please forgive me. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "I know you didn't," Gloria replied gently. "And there's nothing to forgive. You had no way of knowing." "But that doesn't excuse it," Isabella insisted, her voice rising in desperation. "Nothing excuses the way I treated you. Even if you were just the cleaner, even if we had no connection, it would still be inexcusable. I was cruel, I was horrible, I am horrible." "You are not horrible, Isabella. You are young and you were spoiled and you haven't yet learned the value of people. But you can learn. There's still time to become a better person." "How?" Isabella cried. "How can I fix this? How can I make up for what I did?" Gloria finally reached out and touched Isabella's face, wiping away the tears with her thumb. That simple gesture, the first motherly touch in 18 years, made Isabella break down completely. She threw herself into Gloria's arms, hugging her with desperate force as if she feared her mother would disappear if she let go. Gloria held her, feeling the weight of her daughter against her chest, feeling the tears soaking her simple uniform. And then she began to cry too. 18 years of pain, of longing, of regret, of unexpressed love, all coming out in silent sobs as she rocked the daughter she had never stopped loving. They stayed like that for long minutes, kneeling on the hallway floor, mother and daughter finally reunited, crying together all the tears. They couldn't cry for nearly 2 decades. "I'm sorry," Isabella kept saying between sobs. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." "It's okay," Gloria murmured, stroking her daughter's hair. "We're together now. That's all that matters." The sound of the front door opening separated them. Helen rushed in, clearly worried by Isabella's urgent call. Robert followed close behind, putting his keys in his pocket. "Isabella, what happened? You said it was urgent." Helen stopped in the hallway, taking in the scene before her. The daily help and her daughter on the floor, embracing, both with tear-streaked faces. The open leather folder, beside them documents scattered. Helen's face went pale. She understood immediately. "Oh," she said simply, her hand going to her chest. "Oh my God!" Robert approached, confused, until he saw the documents on the floor. Then his eyes widened too. "Gloria?" Isabella slowly stood up, wiping her face with the backs of her hands. "You knew?" she asked, her voice still trembling but with a hint of accusation. "Did you know who she was?" "No," Helen answered quickly, coming down the rest of the stairs. "Isabella, I swear we didn't know. When we hired Mrs. Gloria, we had no idea. She used a slightly different name. She went through the agency. Maria Gloria," Gloria explained, standing up as well. "On the adoption record, it's Maria Gloria Santos. But I've always just used Gloria. The agency didn't make the connection." Helen looked at Gloria, and there were tears in her eyes now too. "You planned this? You got the job here on purpose?" Gloria nodded. "I spent years looking for Isabella. When I finally found out where she was, I knew I couldn't just show up and introduce myself. But I had to be near her, see what she was like. So I got the job. And I," Isabella said, her voice breaking again, "I treated her worse than anyone deserves to be treated. I humiliated her. I ridiculed her. I took almost her entire salary for a blouse that I stained myself and blamed on her. I made her clean the entire house alone after the party until 5 in the morning, and the whole time she was my mother." Helen went to Isabella and pulled her into a hug. "Honey, you didn't know." "But I should have been better," Isabella cried into Helen's shoulder. "Even without knowing, I should have treated her with basic respect, with human dignity. What does that say about me? What kind of person am I?" "A person who can change," Robert said, speaking for the first time. His voice was firm but gentle. "A person who just learned a very hard lesson about empathy and respect, and who is going to do things differently from now on." Helen released Isabella and approached Gloria. The two women faced each other, biological mother and adoptive mother, united by the same daughter. Helen extended a hand but then changed her mind and pulled Gloria into a hug. "Thank you," Helen whispered in Gloria's ear. "Thank you for giving her to me, for trusting me, for making the hardest sacrifice a mother can make." Gloria returned the hug, feeling a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. "Thank you for loving her, for giving her everything I couldn't. Thank you for being the mother I couldn't be." "You were always her mother," Helen said, pulling back and holding Gloria's hands. "Just in different ways. I had the privilege of raising her, but you had the courage to give her that chance. That is love in its purest, most sacrificial form." When they separated, Helen wiped her own tears and took on a more decisive posture. "Gloria, you will no longer work as a cleaner in this house. From now on, you are our guest. We have plenty of spare rooms. One of them is yours, for as long as you want to stay." "Mom," Isabella interrupted, "she's not a guest. She's my mother, our family." Helen smiled through her tears. "You're right. She's family." Gloria shook her head, still processing everything. "I can't just—" "Yes, you can," Robert said firmly. "And you will. Isabella is right. You're part of this family now. You always were, really. It just took us all a while to understand that." That same evening, Gloria was moved from the small maid's quarters out back to a spacious guest room on the 2nd floor, overlooking the garden. Her few possessions seemed lost in the large space, but for the first time in 18 years, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Isabella insisted on helping arrange the room, bringing soft towels, placing fresh flowers on the nightstand, making sure everything was perfect. Her movements were gentle, careful, so different from the casual arrogance with which she used to move through the house. "Do you need anything else?" Isabella asked, her nervous hands adjusting the pillows for the third time. "I can bring more blankets or different pillows or—" "Isabella," Gloria interrupted gently. "It's perfect. You're being wonderful." Isabella's eyes filled with tears again. I need to do something to show that—" "You already are," Gloria said, sitting on the bed and patting the space next to her for Isabella to sit too. "Just being here, caring, it already means everything to me." The next day, Isabella insisted on gathering all the household staff. The housekeeper, the gardener, the driver, everyone was called to the living room. Gloria stood beside Isabella, nervous, but her daughter held her hand firmly. "I need to make a public apology," Isabella began, her voice clear but emotional. "For the past few weeks I treated Mrs. Gloria in an unacceptable way. I was cruel, disrespectful, and abusive. And even though I recently discovered that she is my biological mother, that's no excuse. She deserved respect simply for being human, for working hard, for doing the best she could. And I completely failed to give her that basic respect." The staff members glanced at each other, surprised. The housekeeper, Carmen, had tears in her eyes. Isabella took a deep breath and continued. "I also committed a financial injustice. I accused Mrs. Gloria of ruining a blouse and had $1,000 deducted from her salary. The truth is the blouse was already stained and it wasn't her fault. So I am correcting that. The amount will be returned with interest and an additional bonus for compensation. And more than that, I want all of you to know that I deeply value the work each of you does. You make this house run, and you deserve to be treated with dignity and gratitude." She turned to Gloria, tears in her eyes again. "I can't undo what I did. I can't erase the words I said or the humiliations I caused. But I can promise that I will spend the rest of my life trying to be better, trying to be worthy of the sacrifice you made for me." Gloria pulled Isabella into a hug, and the staff applauded discreetly, many of them wiping their own eyes. Carmen approached afterward and hugged them both, whispering, "May God bless you both." The weeks that followed were ones of rebuilding. Isabella and Gloria spent hours talking, getting to know each other. Isabella wanted to know everything, what the pregnancy was like, what the birth was like, why Gloria made the decision to give her up for adoption, what the following years were like. Gloria told her everything with honesty, not hiding the pain, but also not placing blame on anyone. She spoke of the sleepless nights working multiple jobs, of living in a tiny room that barely fit a bed, of skipping meals to save money, of finally achieving financial stability but never getting over the loss. "I thought about you every single day," Gloria told her one night, the two of them sitting in the garden under the stars. "Every one of your birthdays, I would light a candle and sing Happy Birthday by myself. Every Christmas I would imagine what presents you were getting. Every milestone, first day of school, middle school graduation. I wondered if you were happy, if you had friends, if someone was taking good care of you when you got sick. And you never wanted to come get me?" Isabella asked softly. "Never thought about trying to reverse the adoption?" Gloria shook her head. "Every day I wanted to, but it wouldn't have been fair to you. Helen and Robert gave you a stable home, an education, opportunities. I was still struggling to survive. Taking you back would have been my selfishness, not my love for you. Real love sometimes means letting go even when every fiber of your being is screaming to hold on." Isabella cried constantly in those first few weeks, processing not only the truth of her origins, but also who she had become. The arrogant, cruel girl began to crumble, giving way to someone more reflective, more compassionate, more aware of her privileged position in the world. One afternoon, she found Helen in the living room. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." Helen put her magazine aside and gave her daughter her full attention. "Of course, dear, what is it?" "I want to start doing volunteer work. I did some research and found a shelter for vulnerable women, many of them single mothers who are going through what Gloria went through. I want to help, I want to make a difference." Helen smiled with genuine pride. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Isabella. Your father and I will support you in this." "And there's more," Isabella continued. "I want to start paying for my own things. I know you have money, but I want to earn my own. I want to work, even if it's part-time. I need to understand the value of money, the value of work." Robert, who had entered the room and overheard the conversation, came over and kissed his daughter's forehead. "We are so proud of you, Izzy, so proud of the woman you are becoming." Isabella started volunteering at the shelter 3 times a week. It was difficult at first, confrontational, seeing women in such precarious situations. But over time she developed genuine connections, learned stories of strength and resilience that changed her worldview. One of these women, Joanna, had a story particularly similar to Gloria's. A single mother of 2 working 3 jobs, struggling to keep her head above water. Isabella asked Gloria to meet her. On the day of the meeting, Gloria hugged Joanna as if they were old friends. "I understand you," Gloria said. "I understand every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every hidden tear. You are strong, stronger than you." "No." Joanna broke down in Gloria's arms, and Isabella watched with tears in her eyes as her biological mother offered the kind of understanding and empathy that only comes from having lived the same pain. In that moment, she truly understood the strength of Gloria's character, the courage it took to survive and keep fighting all those years. Isabella also began to treat the household staff with genuine respect, learning their names, their stories, their families. She discovered that Carmen had 2 grandchildren she rarely saw because she worked so far from home. She found out that the gardener, Mr. Francis, dreamed of opening a small plant nursery. She learned that the driver, Mr. Michael, had been saving for years to pay for his daughter's college education. Isabella began to use her allowance to help these people in small but meaningful ways. She gave Carmen extra days off to visit her grandchildren. She helped Mr. Francis with contacts for plant suppliers. She contributed to Mr. Michael's daughter's college fund. All of it discreetly, without fanfare, because she finally understood that dignity and respect were more important than any public recognition. She also began to question her own privileges. She sold half of her designer clothes and donated the money to the shelter. She cancelled her expensive trip to Europe and decided to use the money for a better cause. She started preparing for her fashion course, not as a rich girl's hobby, but as a real tool to make a difference, planning a line that would employ vulnerable women. Helen and Robert watched the transformation with a mixture of pride and guilt. One night, after Isabella had gone to bed, they talked in the living room. "We failed her," Helen said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "We gave her everything, materially, but we failed to teach her the most important values." Robert took his wife's hand. "We didn't fail completely. Look at who she's becoming now. It shows she always had that potential inside her. She just needed an awakening." "A painful awakening," Helen murmured. "Because of our mistakes, Gloria suffered terribly." "But Gloria chose to suffer for love," Robert said gently. "And now we are all learning and growing together. That has value." The 3 parents, biological and adoptive, developed a unique relationship over the months. There was no competition or jealousy, only a shared goal of helping Isabella become the best version of herself. Helen and Gloria had long conversations about motherhood, about the challenges of raising a person, about the joys and pains that came with the territory. "You did a wonderful job with her," Gloria would say. "Look at the young woman she's becoming." "Only because you gave her the foundation," Helen would reply. "Only because you loved her enough to give her that chance." 6 months after the revelation, on a bright, warm September morning, Isabella asked Gloria to meet her in the garden. When Gloria arrived, she found Isabella holding a package wrapped in brown paper with a simple bow. "I have something for you," Isabella said, her eyes shining but without tears this time. "I spent months looking for it and I finally got it." Gloria carefully opened the package, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was a hand-carved wooden frame, and within the frame, perfectly preserved and restored, was the baby blanket. The white blanket with blue embroidery that Gloria had sewn 18 years ago, that she had wrapped Isabella in for the first time. That was in the hospital photos. "Isabella," Gloria whispered, running her fingers delicately over the fabric. "How did—" "Hoyos, Mum Helen saved it. She saved everything so carefully, waiting for the right moment to tell me the truth. And when I asked for it, she gave it to me without hesitation. I took it to a fabric restoration specialist, and she managed to make it perfect again." Isabella pointed to the embroidery, running her finger over the blue letters that spelled out love. "You embroidered this word. Mom Helen told me you spent nights working on this blanket while you were pregnant with me, that every stitch was made with love and hope." Tears finally fell from Gloria's face. "It was. I didn't have money to buy you anything nice, so I did the best I could with the little I had. I worked during the day and embroidered at night. My fingers would sometimes bleed, but I wanted you to have something made by me. Something that showed you were wanted, that you were loved from the very first moment." "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever received," Isabella said, her own voice choked with emotion. "Because every stitch represents the sacrifice you made. The love you had for me even when you thought you'd never see me grow up. I want you to have it back. Not as a memory of pain, but as a symbol that that love found its way back. That despite all the pain and separation, despite all my cruelties, we are together now. And that this love survived everything." Gloria pulled Isabella into a hug, the blanket pressed between them, and cried tears of pure joy for the first time in 18 years. They were no longer tears of loss or regret, but tears of deep gratitude and renewed hope. "I love you," Gloria whispered in her daughter's ear. "I always have. From the first moment I felt you move inside me. I always will." "I love you too," Isabella replied. "And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to live up to the sacrifice you made for me, trying to be the person you always believed I could be, the person who deserves the love you gave me." They sat together in the garden, on the wooden bench under the shade of a large mango tree, the restored blanket between them, and talked about the future with a lightness neither of them had felt in a very long time. Isabella shared her detailed plans to use her fashion course in Europe to create a line focused on employing vulnerable women, giving them not just jobs but dignity and a real opportunity for growth. "I want to call the line Embroidered Love," Isabella said. "In your honor, each piece will have a small hand-stitched embroidery done by the women who work with me, and a portion of the profits will go to education funds for their children." Gloria held her daughter's hand, her heart overflowing with pride. "You're going to change lives, Isabella. You've already changed mine." Gloria talked about maybe going back to school, a dream she had abandoned long ago when her pregnancy interrupted her plans. "I always wanted to finish high school, maybe take a vocational course." "Then we'll make it happen," Isabella said immediately. "I'll help you with whatever you need. We're a team now." In that moment, with the sun shining through the mango tree's leaves, creating patterns of light and shadow on the ground, with the soft sound of the wind in the leaves and the distant song of birds, it seemed that everything they had been through, all the pain and suffering, all the separation and tears, finally made sense, because it had led to this moment, to this profound reconciliation, to this imperfect but love-filled family they had built from the ruins of the past. Gloria looked at her daughter beside her, at Helen watching from the window with a smile on her face and a handkerchief to her eyes, at Robert in the garden pretending to read the newspaper, but clearly paying attention to them with a discreet smile, and she felt peace. True, deep, and lasting peace for the first time since she had signed those papers 18 years ago. With trembling hands and a broken heart, the crescent moon birthmark on Isabella's shoulder, identical to her own, was no longer just a symbol of biological connection. It was a powerful reminder that true love, a mother's love, survives any distance, any time, any pain, any humiliation, and that some circles, even when they seem irreparably broken, always find a way to become whole again when true love is guiding them back home.